Wow. Diego Pavia is now recruiting President Trump to get Vanderbilt in the college football playoff. Man, this is crazy.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcasting network. I'm your host, Corey Burton, and I'm bringing over a decade of experience in coaching and national sports media with Yahoo Sports with me. Now, this is going to be an interesting episode. We're going to talk signing day, of course, who's going to make an early impact. 20 of the 21 signees are enrolling early, including Jared Curtis. So this will be an interesting signing class. We'll talk about all of that with signing day, who's going to make an impact, all of that stuff. But, man, this playoff thing is getting crazy. And the debates and the who's in, who's out, who deserves to be in, who deserves to be out. I mean, you can make an argument for a lot of teams, but I think Vanderbilt they're recruiting a special person to lobby for them or to help them get into the playoff. We'll talk about that here in just a second as well. So we got an action-packed show, but this action-packed show is actually brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. Now, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And shout out to the Everydayers Club. There's a big announcement coming in that regard starting on Monday, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be huge. It's going to be an absolute big deal, and I think you guys are going to love what's coming down the pike. So, but let's talk about playoffs. Let's talk about Diego Pavia has recruited, and you guys log on to social media, you can see it. It's all he is recruiting President Trump to make an executive order to expand the field to 16. Now, I agree the field should be expanded to 16. I was a fan of the 16-team playoff back in the summer before any of this happened. I was a fan of it because I think usually you're going to have, 16, most years, 16 deserving teams that can legitimately contend for a national championship. You take care of all your conference champions. You take care of all these debates of, okay, BYU, yes, they're deserving. Texas, yes, they're deserving. Miami, yes, they're deserving. Vanderbilt, yes, they're deserving. And you take care of all of these debates, and I think it's a really good, clean field. Now, this is ridiculous. This is unprecedentedly ridiculous with Diego Pavia. And I absolutely love the effort that Vanderbilt is going through to make their case for the college football playoff. And it's, they're going to great lengths. And I will give them a lot of credit for that because, of course, President Trump is probably, he may say something just political wise, just to address it and say, oh yeah, this is, whatever. He's not going to sign an executive order. I'd be surprised. And I think I heard somewhere where Marco Rubio was being recruited by Miami to do the same for them to try to kind of, make sure that we get this executive order going. And even Clark Lea on his recruiting, his National Signing Day press conference turned into a college football lobbying fest. And he went as far as, hey, we're ready to go. We'll go on 2 days' notice. If they want us to play a game this weekend, we will, to prove that we're in. Like, we will do whatever we need to do. We'll sign it. We'll play Miami. We'll play whoever. Just tell us when. Just tell us where. Spot the ball, and we're there. So it's hilarious that and of course. For everything that Diego Pavia brings, this is kind of right on brand for him because, he's going to go that extra length to make sure that he does everything in his power. Clark Lea does everything in his power, and this university does everything in their power, and they are absolutely crushing it as far as making sure that they let the world know, hey, we deserve to be in the playoff field. And whether you agree with it or not, the fight is there, and they do have a case. There's a lot of other teams that have a case too. And Mike Huseman and I are going to talk about it on Friday as far as like bowl projections. Is there any sliver of a path? I got Mike Huseman coming on Friday to discuss that. And we're going to discuss different possibilities and, what's realistic in that regard. So, but man, it's you got to appreciate the fight. And of course, there's a lot going on politically in the world, and, why bother President Trump with this, but it's just part of the fight. It's just going all the way. I mean, when you go to the top, I mean, he is going all the way to the top. Right. And I expect nothing less out of Diego Pavia to do that and to make sure that he makes that statement of, hey, I'm willing to tweet at President Trump, who, as you guys know, he likes to tweet. So, I mean, it's not going to happen, but it does spark a debate of, and this is probably the debate that really kind of comes out of this action is, should there be a 16-team playoff versus 12, like 12 or 16? And I think a lot of people, we had this debate back in the summer, and I don't know that people really kind of fully were aware and what happened with the teams that were left out last summer or last season, like Ole Miss, Alabama, were two notable teams that were left out last season. That initially sparked this debate. I think the SEC going to 9 games, there's got to be some assurances there, but it's going to be interesting. But nonetheless, I absolutely love the fight here with Diego Pavia and just going to the very just brink and edges of everything to make sure that he does everything he can to get Vanderbilt into the playoff field, because they, and you can say this about a lot of teams. And I'm gonna have a wave of people coming here with laughing emojis and whatever, but it's true. They deserve to compete for a national championship. And with the 12-team playoff, you have 15, 16 deserving teams. Some people are going to get cut. And Texas's fan base and coaching staff and university making the same case. Miami is making the same case. And even BYU is, they're probably, if they can somehow win their conference championship game, they have a little more control over their destiny, but they're making their case. And everyone's kind of looking at Notre Dame going, do they belong? And like Miami's like, hey, we beat them. Like, why aren't we in their spot? Like, people are looking at Alabama going, man, they've been struggling. If they get beat by Georgia, like, they shouldn't be in it. Like, people are looking at different scenarios. I think a 16-team playoff would take care of a lot of this stuff. You put, and the biggest pro to it is you put the games on the field and let it play out. Because when you put the best 16, you're still likely going to get who's supposed to win. More than likely, you're going to get who's supposed to win. And like my man Randy Savage, Macho Man, says right here, the cream rises to the top, and the cream of the crop will be the cream of the crop. And so whether it's a 8-team playoff, 12-team, 16, 134 team, doesn't matter. The cream will rise to the top. Who's supposed to win it most years will win it. It will play itself out. But that's the reason I like it. And I think that's the reason why, you get a team that deserves to be there. Miami, Texas, and Vanderbilt especially are probably going to be left out of the field, and they shouldn't be. And they absolutely shouldn't be, because they deserve to be in it. And I love the American Conference. I love the Sun Belt and James Madison and Tulane and whoever else they're talking about. Duke, if they win, they shouldn't be in. They're 7-5. But like, come on. It should, I don't know. Like I've always lobbied for G5 having their own tournament and having their own national championship. I don't see any problem with that. That's a different topic for a different day. But I love the fight, man. I really, this team, this university, like these are things that signify change in the culture at Vanderbilt. Like they're not accepting status quo like they normally would. They normally would have been like, okay, thank you for the opportunity. We're glad to be here. Blah, blah, blah. No, they're not acting like that at all. They're acting like an SEC team now. And that's going to be dangerous for people. And people aren't used to that. People are like, oh, shut up, Vandy. But Vandy's acting like an SEC team. They performed like one this year. They're acting like one right now. And the chancellor, they have a chancellor that says, hey, our football team can help us. Oh, yeah, let me go all in. Facility upgrades. They had 2 major flips today during for signing day with Jared Curtis and Owen Cabell. And they or Cabell, sorry. And they just there's a lot of things moving in the right directions for Vanderbilt. They have hordes of money. Like Vanderbilt can spend. Now they might actually dip into those pockets and spend a little bit because they know what this is like. They're experiencing it now. You're recruiting President Trump to make an executive order to expand the field to 16 teams. If you'd have told me this was going to happen back in August, I would have laughed. And as hyperbolic as I've been at times, I would have been like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Vanderbilt lobbying the president to get into the playoffs. Like, come on. Like, Diego Pavia. If there's anybody on Vanderbilt's campus that was going to recruit the president, it would be Diego Pavia. But this is ridiculous, but I absolutely love it, man. And, of course they're going to fight. And of course, President Trump's probably not going to respond to this probably at all. He might just fire off a tweet or something like that saying Vanderbilt should be in or, whatever, just to kind of pacify it. And I totally understand that, but it just, what it signifies, I think, is probably more in the debate that it sparks. Like if teams are willing to go this length to try to expand the field and you're getting this much attention, they're going to expand it because the committee just doesn't want that attention. They want the easy route, and the easy route would be to expand it to 16. And then, you're always going to have the argument, well, the first 2 teams out are going to complain. But when you get to a certain point, Vanderbilt and Texas and Miami complaining is certainly a lot different than 5 and 6 complaining when it was just 4 teams. And then 17 and 18 will be less complain, than what Vanderbilt and Texas and Miami are doing now. It'll be less significant. And if you expand it to 24, it'll be even less significant of who's complaining that they're not in. So it gets more deserving teams in. It's better for recruiting. It's all of that. So, man, it's just I saw that pop across social media, and I was just like, "Holy cow! Like, what is going on here? This is bizarro, or this is crazy." So, but I just thought that was interesting. Just thought I would address that. But 12 teams, 16 teams. What do you think is better? Obviously, you're going to give me your thoughts on Diego Pavia recruiting President Trump to sign an executive order to make it happen now. I'm sure you guys got opinions about that. So just drop all of that here down below. But we're going to flip the script to, and that's a pun, we're going to flip the script to signing day. Jared Curtis is going to be an early enrollee. They flip a Bama commit and much, much more right here. It's Locked On Vandy. We're talking about it next. But first, I want to tell you about Aura Frames. And I can tell you a lot about Aura Frames because I have one. And I bought them before they were cool. No, they've always been cool. But the holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, and I guarantee you it does get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories. And Aura is not your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before you gift it. So when they plug it in, the memories pop right there. And that's what happened to me. When I received it as a Christmas gift, probably 4 years ago now, that's what happened. When I opened it and plugged it in, it was preloaded with probably 100 pictures of my child, my wife, just family, things like that. There's no apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles, man. And like I said, I have it in my classroom because that's where I get most of the foot traffic and that's where it gets most of the attention. Everybody that walks into my room, whether they've seen it or not, they always have something to say about my picture frame. They always stop by my desk and they're always mesmerized by it. And it just is so easy to upload. I can just say, hey, watch this and get on my phone on the app and upload it real quick. And it's there. And it's just such a great attention piece that I think you can't go wrong by getting one of these. And it's just, like I said, instant talking point. They ask me where I got it. They ask me what it's about, what it does, all of that. And it's so great. And it's one of the best. It's one of my favorite things, and it's better than having 900 picture frames all over my desk. It makes that easy as well. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com right here down below to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. Believe me, they do. So order yours now and get it in time for the holidays. So support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply, of course. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Is President Trump going to sign that executive order? Is he going to expand the playoff field to 16 teams? I don't know. We'll see how much influence Diego Pavia has on the president, that's for sure. But that I didn't have that on my bingo card this season. But at this point with Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia, nothing ceases to amaze me. So it's wild, man. It's a wild ride. And it's just Vanderbilt's acting like an SEC. Welcome to the SEC, Vanderbilt. Finally, you figure out that you can be good at football and be good at school. Here we go. So, but we're flipping the script to signing day because it is a big day for a lot of these student athletes. And I do want to give them some shine. So Vanderbilt is, I'm very pleased with this class. I think when you look at what they were able to do coming off, and this was a lot of recruiting. The recruiting of this class would have almost kind of because usually SEC big time guys start 2 classes ahead. So this would have started in 23, and for a lot of these guys, but really the bulk of it was the summer between last season and this season where you get a lot of these guys. There was a big run on these commits because it just, that timeline really shrunk because you just don't have the juice. And, when Jared Curtis was first being recruited, the thought of going to Vanderbilt would have said something would have gone terribly wrong. And that's just where Vanderbilt was at the time. And then you're right down the road and you can't help but notice it. And you look at it and you look at it and you look at it and you're just like, okay, this team's for real. Okay, well, hold on. Okay, I like what they're doing with Pavia. I like how this offense is going, but they're still a little bit run heavy for me. So, it's cool, but I'm going to stay at Georgia. And it just keeps going and going and going. And then all of a sudden, after the Missouri game, he's like, oh, okay, they're cool. And then all of a sudden they start exploding offensively. And I think that's what really kind of drew him in. And with a lot of this group, it was, they had to pull a lot of these guys late. And you had 2 major flips, Jared Curtis being one, obviously probably the biggest flip in recruiting history. And then you had Owen Cabell from right down the road at CPA. He was committed to Alabama, big, tall receiver, run big strides, runs like a deer, good playmaker at the wide receiver position, obviously very productive and was going to be productive for Kalen DeBoer in Alabama, but decides he wants to stay home. And I think there's a lot to, you got Jared Curtis now staying home. You've got Owen Cabell staying home. You've got Amari Sanders in the 27 class staying home. Like, I think there's some attention being had there on in Nashville. So I think the local eyes are starting to turn towards Vanderbilt, which is what you want to do. You want to make Nashville your home state. And I've been saying that from day one. Like, if Clark Lea wants to be successful, the first thing he has to do is make his home state Nashville, right? The state of Nashville. And I've drawn a lot of comparisons with Vanderbilt and Miami. And when I'm talking about Miami, I'm talking about Howard Schnellenberger Miami, where he comes into Miami and they're pitiful. Like, their football team, they're about to disband their football team. They're about to drop down to 1AA, which is what FCS was at the time. Like, they were in the gutter. They were awful. Like, you could open those gates up and people still wouldn't come to the games. Like, they couldn't sell tickets. They were awful. But what Howard Schnellenberger did in his plan, he said, and Clark Lea made a similar statement. He didn't say it quite like Howard Schnellenberger did, but he made a similar statement saying, we're going to win a national championship in Miami, and everybody laughed at him. 5 years later, he wins a national championship. Clark Lea says something similar. By year 5, we're lobbying President Trump for a playoff spot. And Vanderbilt, when he stepped foot on campus, was coming off a winless season during the COVID. It was a mess. It was more than just wins and losses. Like, this program was just in complete disarray. They were pulling terrible PR stunts out of their rear ends. Like, the administration. I don't know that the administration knew that football existed. Like, it was bad. And he comes in first SEC Media Days and said Vanderbilt's going to be one of the premier programs in the SEC. And everybody laughed at him. We're on the cusp of that, of Vanderbilt being a major player in the SEC. And it's going to start with this class. I thought last year's class, they had some pieces, but overall it was a okay class. And still waiting on some of those guys to contribute. So that last year's class could be really good. Just waiting on some of those guys to contribute. We'll really kind of know after next year what last year's class was able to bring to the table. But this class is going to have, I think, a greater impact just overall. I like the pieces. I think the caliber of the players, if you're somebody that looks at star rankings, is a lot better as well. And of course, they're all going to early enroll. Jared Curtis is going to early enroll. He's going to get a jump on the quarterback race, which I think is going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting to cover throughout the offseason, as far as like, okay, who's got the upper hand? Where's Jared Curtis have the edge? Where's Blaze Berlowitz have an edge? Do they go after somebody in the portal? Like, it's going to be interesting to kind of take this long and winding road to see where this quarterback race goes. That's going to be fun. You got most of this class. Now, at the time that I wrote this, 20 of the 21 were enrolling early. They've signed some more since. So I don't know what those numbers look like, but you have to think it's still true that the majority of the class is going to be on campus for spring ball, which is a huge advantage. It's a huge, huge advantage, especially with these offensive linemen and defensive linemen. So you look at this class just overall, I really, the two flips, I think, signify a change. The two flips of two local guys, two local stars, pulling Jared Curtis from Georgia, pulling Owen Cabell from Alabama. Like, those have a lot of significance, not only because you pull them away from two powerhouse programs, that happens from time to time, but they're local guys that normally wouldn't pay attention to you, but now they are. So I'm going to talk about who is going to have an early impact. Like, I'm going to kind of go through some of these guys and really just kind of give you an idea of who's going to be what and who's going to make an impact. We'll talk about that next. But first, quickly, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. That's one of my favorite things. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. And also you can take Diego Pavia plus 150 for Heisman odds if you'd like as well. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, wrapping up the show here at Locked On Vandy. Make sure you follow at Locked On Vandy if you want to follow along and follow the show. It's growing rapidly. And this show is growing, and this show is growing like the team is growing. The Renaissance, born out of the ashes of putrid Vanderbilt football, comes the new era and Locked On Vandy. So there's a lot of similarities there, really. I mean, I'm just saying. But 2 years ago, I did not think we would be in a position where New Mexico State transfer quarterback would be recruiting the president to sign an executive order to expand the field to 16. That's crazy. That's wild. So, talking about recruiting, though, like, who's going to make an impact early? Like, what guys? And you can leave this in the comments too. Who stands out to you as far as the signees? Obviously, Jared Curtis. Don't say that one. Okay. Outside of Jared Curtis, who is going to make the biggest impact? Who are some guys that you may not think can make an impact, but will? We'll talk about that all throughout the course of the offseason as well. We got plenty of time for that. And these guys are early enrollees, so that'll be even more fun. But to me, I think if you look at two guys that really intrigue me, four guys that really intrigue me: Adam Jim, Tilden Riley, Evan Hampton, Isaiah Lee. And I was kind of nervous when I was preparing stuff for the show. Isaiah Lee hadn't signed yet. I was kind of nervous about that. But here we are. I think those guys are going to have a monster impact because you have two electric running backs. I think you have a really nice duo with Hampton and Isaiah Lee, and I think you're going to add that to a room that is kind of thin. And I think Seti is leaving. I think he might have one more year. I haven't really looked at eligibility. There's 45 guys leaving. I just assume Alexander was in that mix. But those guys are going to make a big, big impact, regardless of who's there. I think Isaiah Lee he's electric, dude. He's so shifty. He's like Caleb Barnett got some run because of how shifty he is. He just weighs 120 pounds. But I think Isaiah Lee is going to be very dynamic in this offense. And I think Evan Hampton is going to be kind of that combination of power and speed and just running ability. And just, I think there's a lot to what Evan Hampton brings to the table as well. This is going to be a really nice duo. And then you're going to have a major void with Eli Stowers. And I don't know if they go to the portal for this, but I think Adam Jim and Tilden Riley are going to be guys that have a chance to contribute early. Now, Cole Spence is coming back, so I think obviously he's going to be the number one inline guy. But as far as like Eli Stowers, I don't know with personnel groups and stuff how they're going to rotate those guys and how the new guys are going to factor in at the tight end position. Bryson Coleman, is he ready to step up into that Eli Stowers role? Like he was the backup. Like he had some pretty pivotal moments throughout the season, but again, still not a ton of snaps because are you really going to take Eli Stowers off the field? But these guys are interesting because I think they can contribute in this whole thing. Like especially if they go 13 personnel at some point, I think these guys could be good enough to contribute. Offensive linemen, obviously, there's a need for that. It's just hard to project which one of these guys are going to be impact players because like with high school guys, it's tough. Like Pualite Primus from Midland, I think has a chance. He has some good size, good athletic ability there. I think your JUCO guy, Michael Smith, I think he has a chance. He's a little bit older, veteran guy. And then I don't know. Trip Skews, I think, is going to have to gain some weight and get in the weight room and stuff. Mitchell Smith, I think, is going to, he has a chance, but I think that there's got to be some things happening there too. George Hezatos, I'm pretty sure I butchered that. I got to learn that. I got to learn the pronunciation on that name. From Naples, I think these guys are going to have to get in the weight room, and it's probably good that most of them are going to be early enrollees because they do get that chance. So it's going to be interesting. I really like Darrell Campbell's chance to contribute early, not as a starter, but as a rotational guy. And then some of these wide receivers, I'm curious to see how they kind of fit in and kind of see where some of these guys that are on the roster now, like Tristan Brown, Trent Hudson, Fitzgerald, those guys, Joseph McVay, that didn't really contribute for various reasons. Like, do they get jumped? Like LeBron Hill, what happens to him? This is going to be an interesting roster. And I think signing day is going to prove that. And I think this class is going to, I think you're going to have a lot more contributors than you think from this class. And you may see some guys hit the portal. So, but it's going to be interesting group. But I was able to get Mike Huseman to come back and chat. We talk playoffs and talk about how the door was slammed in Vanderbilt's face, and was able to we were able to talk and things like that. So it's going to be an interesting deal. And we'll talk about that. I got Mike Huseman coming on tomorrow, and that's going to be a lot of fun. But until next time, if you need a second listen, Locked On SEC with Chris Gordy is phenomenal. The entire family of shows in the SEC on this network is phenomenal. So you can't miss there. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. Diego Pavia is recruiting President Trump. It's peak craziness right now. This is why they should expand to 16 and just let's go. Obviously not going to happen this year, but they need to expand to 16 and let's roll. Your thoughts, your comments, all that stuff. I appreciate you guys listening, but until next time, anchor down. Peace.